Up next, the electric story of one of the 70s greatest masterpieces. The song was truly a happy accident. The singer stuttered a word in the chorus and it became the best part of the song, along with some misheard lyrics that most have been singing incorrectly for years. It was a hodgepodge of glam rock and fantasy to create a song the legendary artist was pissed off at the label for releasing over a single that, he thought would be the big hit. As you're going to find out next, just so happens that for once the label and the artist were both right. Stories coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you want to go behind the stories of the song straight from the artist, make sure to subscribe below right now and also hit the bell so that you can get our daily offerings. Also check us out on Patreon where you'll not only get more content, you can also become an honorary producer and help us to keep the music alive with more videos and more interviews. We also have Professor of Rock merch below if you check that out. So let's go back to the 70s and relive one of the greatest songs ever. Now, the cutting-edge rock group Bennie and the Jets were weird and wonderful, at least in the imagination of one of music's most prolific lyricists, the great Bernie Taupin. Bernie's vision for Bennie and the Jets was a futuristic, all-female band of automatons named the Jets, with a striking lead singer named Bennie who commanded the stage wearing electric boots and a mohair suit. Now, the inspiration for the invention of Bennie and the Jets, that came from a melting pot of Bernie's passions, comic books, movies, and the work of German photographer Helmut Newton. Apparently, amidst all the incredible songs that Bernie wrote the words for, he always had what he called a wacky science fiction idea swirling around in that genius mind of his about creating a futuristic band fronted by some kind of Helmut Newton-style beauty. Bernie is not sure if the overall concept came to him in a dream or a subconscious effect of reading comic books or maybe watching Stanley Kubrick's revolutionary sci-fi picture 2001: A Space Odyssey.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I.
Expanding on the image of Bennie and the Jets, his fictional band, Bernie envisioned identical-looking females that captured David Bowie-like androgyny. In the late 60s, Bernie had a relationship with whom he considered a really hip girl. Her name was Sally Bennington. She was the muse that shaped the character of Bennie when Bernie wrote the song. Bennie, Bernie, gosh, you can get those mixed up easy. Bernie Taupin's lyricism is a beautiful adventure in eloquence and deep introspection. It's completely unpredictable. His songwriting has just this unorthodox quality to it that defies the simplistic rules of song composition. In Bennie and the Jets, he even turns a biblical idiom into a modern pop culture expression. In the opening verse when he says, "We'll kill the fatted calf tonight, so stick around." The expression, "kill the fatted calf," means to prepare a lavish celebration or event, often to welcome someone back from a long absence. Of course, the phrase comes from the biblical parable of the prodigal son, in which a father prepares a feast for his son, who has returned home after losing his fortune. Now, the Taupin line in Bennie and the Jets that really knocks me out is after that first chorus in the second verse where he says, where we fight our parents out in the streets to find out who's right and who's wrong. I battled my parents in the proverbial streets when I was a teenager, just like you undoubtedly did, like we all did. And our parents fought with their parents, just part of the deal. Not necessarily out of hate, not necessarily out of spite, but because of the inevitable natural pursuit to forge the path of a new generation of passion and interest, and to break the confines of the previous generation that is holding you back from being your own person. My parents didn't understand me quite, and frankly, I don't understand the generation of kids I'm raising today. Just a constant challenge of social evolution, if you will. According to the magazine Society of Rock, when Elton absorbed Bernie's lyrics for Bennie and the Jets to compose the arrangement, he wanted the music to be off the wall. The slow, stomping, robotic rhythm that was intended to emulate Taupin's vision of a band from the future. Since Bennie and the Jets, it was about a bunch of friends getting together to see the exciting, all-the-rage band perform in a live venue, producer Gus Dudgeon had the genius idea to give the track a live recording sound. It's actually not live. Bennie and the Jets was not recorded with a live audience. I thought it was until I was in my teen years. It was actually recorded at a traditional studio, but Elton did something unpredictable that gave Gus his bright idea. Gus was a vital principle in the Elton John, Bernie Taupin collaboration of magic. He always added some kind of invaluable nuance that made a big difference in every one of the recordings that he produced. In the recording sessions, for some weird reason, Elton happened to hit a lone F major 7 chord on his piano, and he paused for exactly 1 bar before actually starting the song's slow melodic march. So when Gus was doing the mix and this chord kept coming on, which you normally wouldn't expect to hear, he turned to engineer David Henschel and asked him, "What does that remind you of?" To Gus and David, that isolated piano chord at the very beginning of the track was the sort of thing that an artist or a band does on stage, just before they're going to start performing a song. Gus thought that they should add some kind of crowd noise, to give it a live feel. But he would have to do that in the final mix. Gus mixed in the live audience sounds from an Elton John concert at Royal Festival Hall in '72 and the crowd elation from a 1970 Jimi Hendrix performance at the Isle of Wight Festival, actually. He also added hand claps and various other whistles and shouts, just like you hear at a concert. Elton arranged the music to Bennie and the Jets as an homage to glam rock. Glam rock of the early 70s, a style that featured outrageous costumes and makeup, especially in the United Kingdom. Artists like Bowie, T-Rex, they exploited the glam scene, but Elton dressing up in a glam was an extension, really, of his personality. Elton loved to shock his audience with androgynous wardrobe and gaudy sunglasses on stage. He topped everybody every time. The wilder and more provocative, the better.
Fantastic! Elton John!
Bernie's lyrics to Bennie and the Jets were out of sight, but the fictitious group and the song came to life because of Elton's big, hypnotic, off-time piano chord and the stuttering of the Bennie.
Bennie and the Jets.
Now, it was Elton's idea alone to stutter the B's, and that clever move absolutely blew up the chorus. You think about it. Makes it so amazing. Whenever Bernie speaks about the recording of Bennie and the Jets, he always credits Elton's stutter with a touch of jealousy as the standout that turned the song into a smash, and it nailed his futuristic, mechanized vision. Elton's glorious falsetto in the song, that was another Elton John classic improv. Now, when asked about incorporating a falsetto to his vocal, Elton said that he was doing an impersonation of Frankie Valli, of course, the iconic singer of the Four Seasons, which was one of the first concerts that he had attended as a young lad.
Sherry, baby,
So a few weeks ago, I conveyed my obsession with CuriosityStream. I can't get enough of the documentaries that are full of honest-to-goodness storytelling. And when I watch a film on CuriosityStream, I feel enlightened, educated, and mentally stimulated. It's a lot of fun. The documentaries on CuriosityStream cover a variety of subjects and interests. There are a number of music-related shows that I thoroughly enjoyed. There's The Other F Word about aging punkers becoming parents. There's also the thought-provoking documentary about Elvis. Big fan of The King. It's called The King. And there's a documentary, All I Can Say, about the band Blind Melon, just to name a few. Rise, the story of the Augustines, that's another doc that's one of my favorites. You can stream CuriosityStream on any device, so you can watch anytime, anywhere. We have another special deal for the Professor of Rock community, where you pay only $14.99 for a subscription for the entire year. Just click on the link below and sign up to start binge watching the wide spectrum of riveting entertainment on Curiosity Stream. All right, so back to Bennie and the Jets. From the get-go, Elton thought that Bennie and the Jets was a really strange tune, and he did not want it to be a single from his masterpiece album, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Very interesting. In most countries, Candle in the Wind was actually the A-side single, and Bennie and the Jets was the B-side.
Goodbye, Norma Jean.
On the label of the 45, Bennie was actually spelled differently, B-E-N-N-Y instead of B-E-N-N-I-E, as we all know how it's spelled. Elton did not believe the song was a hit, and he was angry when MCA Records in North America disagreed with him, thinking that Bennie was clearly the superior choice for a single. So against the artist's wishes, MCA went ahead with their plan for Bennie and the Jets, dropping it as the third single in America and Canada from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, back with the song Harmony, another great song. Bennie and the Jets was an enormous #1 smash in both countries. I would be remiss if I didn't note, though, that Candle in the Wind ended up being one of the two best-selling singles in recorded music history, far outselling Bennie and the Jets in the long run, or any other single except for Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
You live your life like a candle in the wind.
Of course, it was the 97 version that did that, though, that really brought it back to the forefront.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever.
In fact, Candle in the Wind was released several times before the 97 version. There was the live version from 87 that was recorded in 86 from an Australia concert.
Would have liked to know you, but I was just a kid.
And then the original version that was released in 74. We'll definitely cover that one in the future. So Bennie and the Jets garnered immediate AM Top 40 airplay in the US. But what really won Elton John over was when black music radio stations began to play the song. WJLB, the #1 soul music station in Detroit, tested Bennie on the air as an album cut. Within a few days, 80% of the phone requests from WJLB's listening audience was for Bennie. WJLB added the song into heavy rotation, and of course, MCA then launched a promotional campaign for soul radio airplay. Bennie and the Jets, that was Elton's first single to cross over into the top 40 on the Billboard Hot Soul Singles charts. That's what it was called in the 70s. It peaked at number 15. Elton performed Bennie and the Jets and Philadelphia Freedom on the TV show Soul Train, becoming the first white megastar to appear on the program. He was actually the fourth white performer to be on the show overall. There was before him Dennis Coffey, Gino Vanelli, and David Bowie, which was indeed high praise. Elton asked to be on Soul Train and was thrilled when they invited him to be on the show. He expressed his passion for the show during the appearance, and he told the audience that he and his band watched the program religiously while they toured America.
Bennie and the Jets.
Although he is a larger-than-life icon in the UK and knighted by the Queen of England, Elton has had a lot more success in America. Elton has garnered 8 #1 pop hits compared to 5 in his native country, though he just had a #1 in the UK just lately. Bennie and the Jets was a mid-charter in the UK, though, stalled at number 37 when it was released as a single in 76, 2 years after its amazing run in North America. The veteran Elton John band was in full effect on the recording of Bennie and the Jets, with Davy Johnstone on acoustic and electric guitar, the great Dee Murray on bass, and Nigel Olsson on drums. What a phenomenal band. In addition to his inspired vocal and piano performance on the Strange track, Elton played the farfisa organ during the outro of Bennie and the Jets. As with many of the ubiquitous, enduring Elton John, Bernie Taupin songs, Bennie and the Jets has been well covered through the years. Renditions by Lady Gaga, the Beastie Boys, Pink, Miguel, and the Muppets, among many others. Elton appeared on the Muppets TV show and performed the song with the Puppets back when that was one of the biggest shows out there. Bennie and the Jets was also heavily sampled on Mary J. Blige's 1999 song Deep Inside, which featured a guest performance by Elton himself. And more recently, Elton and Dua Lipa performed the song together at an Oscar party thrown for the AIDS Foundation. Bennie and the Jets. One of my favorite versions of Bennie is when Elton and Billy Joel duetted on it in their many tours together. They just both brought such an energy and edge to it. Among its placement in film is the opening of Aloha Bobby and Rose in '75. And a comical drunken scene in 27 Dresses in 2008. Elton and Bernie were in perfect step on Bennie and the Jets, no doubt about it. It's one of the first 20 songs that I remember hearing as a little kid, for sure. I was probably 4 years old or so, and I was completely mesmerized by all the little musical zigzags. There's piano playing on this song. It's just absolutely scorched earth. It was to me at 4 years old. I remember one time my whole family was in the car and we were on our way to the mall or something. And my dad was flipping through the radio stations and he landed on a rock station that was starting to play Bennie and the Jets. And I, of course, screamed loudly, "Dad, leave it here. I love this song. My favorite song ever." If I had $1 for every time that I've said, "This is my favorite song ever," I'd be a billionaire several times over. Anyway, my dad left the dial on the station over the protesting of my older sister and her friend who said something like, "I want to hear Olivia Newton-John, not Elton John." So anyway, I started singing every single word. You know, my dad starts singing really softly as well. Eventually, others in my family were singing along the best they could. I mean, it's just such a catchy song. How can you not sing along to this song? Well, I'm drowning everyone out because I'm screaming the lyrics excitedly because I'm just so pumped up the song's on. You know, Bennie and the Jets, oh, they're weird and they're wonderful. Bennie, she's really keen. So at this point, I'm really getting into it and I just scream to the top of my lungs, "She's got electric boobs, a mower suit." And all of a sudden, the radio turns off, silence. Every single person in that car is just staring at me, their eyes as wide as saucers. And my dad says, "What'd you just say?" I said, "She's got electric boobs, a mower suit." My sister and her friend were looking at me, staring at me, and my mom and dad, not sure what to make of it. And then my dad let out the biggest full belly laugh ever. Everyone followed suit, and it's then that I learned about misheard lyrics. I didn't know any better. I was only 5 years old or something. I didn't even think I knew what I was saying. So from then on, my dad called this song Electric Boobs. Man, I miss it. Now, the album that Bennie came from, it's truly one of the greatest albums of the 70s. I mean, we talked about Candle in the Wind, but I mean, you think about it. The first 4 cuts of this album are Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, with, inspired Axl to write November Rain. That's followed by Candle in the Wind, then Bennie and the Jets, and then the title track, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. You also have Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting on there. Roy Rogers' harmony. It's just a classic album that just lights you up. In closing, Bennie and the Jets is one of those universal songs. But when it comes on, everyone is electrified by Elton's transformational performance of voice and piano with his amazing band, along with Bernie Taupin's enigmatic words. This is the kind of song that transcends the decade that it came from. It's as fresh now as it was then. It's the stuff of fantasy.
Bennie and the Jets.
Make sure to leave us a comment about this classic Elton John and Bernie Taupin composition. What are your memories of this standard and the album that came from? Let us know in the comments. If you like our content, we do invite you to be a part of our community, a full-time part, by subscribing below. Make sure to check out our new merch as well as our Patreon so that we can keep the music alive. That's the important part. That's what we love to do. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.